hit the recording button, hit my notes so I can see what I'm talking about because I can't remember anything without my. Welcome back and welcome to the Krieg Dominion. I'm Omar Krieg, your Lord and Commander of the Krieg Dominion, and if I sound like I'm a little bit low energy, lower than normal, it's because the last month or so has been pretty full of stuff. I don't even know where to begin. But let's go ahead and recap the last few things. This is State of the Dominion for 2024. Well, more accurately, I guess, for 2025, but we're not quite there yet. At any rate, let's recap. Second Star, a Traveler 2300 role-playing experience, came to an end earlier this year, and sometime shortly, I believe it was after that, the B team, Celasta, Crown of the Magister, also came to an end, having successfully completed that main campaign of that game. This did allow a couple of new shows to start up in this previous year, Along the Frontier, an Alien RPG campaign, and Warhammer 40k, Rogue Trader, Tithes of Akron. Both shows are doing quite well and will continue in the new year. Greyland Trios League. Unfortunately, we made it through most of 3025. We got into the postseason championship playoffs. That project has stalled out, unfortunately. We have, I believe, if memory serves correctly, we have one semifinals match remaining, and of course the championship. However, that project has been ended. I am canceling that show effective now. If at some point we manage to get the involved players back into it, which would be amazing, just for the record, then we can complete the playoffs and we can crown our champion. But until then, or in lieu of that, it looks like the Luthien Dragonborn will default to being the 3025 Trios League champions. Give me 1 second here. For those that don't know, November was not a good month for me. I had numerous non-streamed days based on me being sick, colds, nothing serious, of course, but just sick and some vertigo problems that unfortunately had gotten in the way. So November, of course, was not a great month for me, physically speaking. December, I had expected. Well, let me just back up. Those that don't know, my day job is basically delivering to people's houses 60, 80, 90, 100 times a day. And holiday season is obviously a very busy time because of Christmas and whatnot. I did not expect it to be as rough this year as it was. I had hoped that we'd be able to do at least the first couple of weeks of December with our shows and whatnot. But unfortunately, between coming off of the sickness that I dealt with a lot of in November and the increased tempo at work, I was not able to make much happen and ended up just saying, screw it. We're just not going to do anything else for the rest of the month. So we've got about a week or so left for the rest of the holidays. At this point, of course, the next one is New Year's Day. So enjoy that. We will be on break, but we are expecting to return the first week of January, around the week of the 6th. I will be reaching out to the various casts and confirming our return dates. Announcements, of course, will be made as needed. It looks like everything is on track, though. So there is that. Speaking of what we're looking at in 2025, this is what I am most excited about personally. There are quite a few things in the works. And I'm still dealing with some of my post-sickness stuff. At any rate, Along the Frontier, Tithes of Akron, they will return to their familiarly slotted times, Tuesday and Wednesday. They will both continue. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how the rest of Along the Frontier continues. We are on mission 5 of 6. More accurately, probably saying 5 of 7, because I think what will happen is we're going to do we'll call it the boss mission. I don't know what else to call it at this point. We're going to do the boss mission. The problem is or not, I should say problem. The trick will be determining which way the player characters go. But it'll be an interesting story no matter what. And that's my son in the background making an awful lot of noise. He may or may not have showed up on the video from that. Who knows? Tides of Acheron will continue. We are a handful of episodes short of completing the first segmentum. Their next big move will be jumping away from Footfall to Magoros, where they will be looking for the lost treasure ship. And then that will be for lack of a better thing to call it, a launching point or catalyst into the rest of the campaign. Now, with those two out of the way, I want to talk about 2 additional shows that I'm looking at launching in the first month or 2 of 2025. First one, I have 3 members casted for. This is Battletech Operation Revival Divergence. For those that don't know, some time ago, Catalyst Game Labs released Operation Turning Point Revivals, which basically gives the Operation Revival placement trials. And what I've decided, with the help of these players, is that we are going to play these placement trials, where the different clans will compete against each other in an effort to see which ones get to participate in Revival, the invasion of the Inner Sphere. And then based on how they perform, these players will be invading the Inner Sphere in a divergent timeline from established lore. And at the very least, my intent is to make it up to the Battle of Tukid. More than likely, as the more I think about this, more than likely Tukid would be probably the end of that show for a couple reasons. Namely because if they win Tukid, the invasion would, in theory, continue all the way through to Terra. I don't know how to play that out yet. I don't know how to take such a major change from established lore and make it applicable. That said, I am not opposed to trying to make something work. This will be something that I and the cast members will have to figure out. Now, there are 3 cast members representing clans Jade Falcon, Nova Cat, and Steel Viper. I can take up to 2 additional players. Me? No, not you. Aww. No, it wouldn't work. I will tell you later. I'm recording right now. My son wants to be in this operation, but I don't know how we can make that logistically possible. But he and I will talk after this. With that said, I can take up to 2 additional players. This is not required. The show is ready to go as is. The players will be representing their clans. This will be played out in Tabletop Simulator. It'll be an interesting thought exercise, I guess. But I'm very much curious to see how this goes. The other show that I'm looking at launching early in the year, I've kind of teased it a little bit in the last few months, which is Battletech Solaris, currently with a working title of Stable Unknown. My intent with that, of course, is that when the players are assembled, that they will name their stable whatever they want to call it, and that will be the name of the show, Battletech Solaris Stable, whatever. Basically, this will be a number of players competing in the Solaris Open Leagues, in whichever classes they choose to participate in. The end state, of course, of that would be that they make their way into the open tournament that's held at the end of every season. Additionally, they'll be doing other role-playing things and, hatching schemes and pulling off crazy stunts, things of that nature. This will also be held in Tabletop Simulator, with Zoom, of course, being the communication connection. For a minimum of 3 players, I have 1 slotted already. I know the character's last name is Matamuri, so that probably gives away who the player is. I cannot at the moment recall his player's first name though. Originally this was being played in Megamech. I have elected to go to Tabletop Simulator because we can get a lot more flexible with the Battletech rules. And visually, I think it's a bit more visually engaging or entertaining for the viewer. So there is that as well. Like I said, though, 1 current cast member with room for up to 3 additional players. I want a minimum of 3 in order to make this happen. We could probably get away with even 5 or 6 players total, but that could become a bit of a logistical challenge. Again, not one that I'm, backing down from, but one that we have to be aware of in order to make this work out. And there's additional items to consider that I will be briefly discussing shortly. Battletech Aquila Legion. This was a Mech HQ campaign that will return Saturday, the 11th of January, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. However, this will be pending any other scheduling conflicts. Work, most likely. Potentially other projects may get in the way, such as Battletech Revival Divergence or Stable Unknown, or even other projects that I am a member of. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Battletech Aquila Legion, we've had 3 episodes. I've had some pretty good view numbers on it. So I would like to continue it because there's obviously some interest in viewing that. So that will return on Saturday, the 11th of January. Additional projects. So I've got a couple of different categories of projects. Namely, ongoing being the obvious ones. The shows that are currently live and being streamed weekly or something close to it. There are projects that I am in the planning stages. These are projects that are basically slotted to go live next. Once room is freed up on the calendar. And then I start looking for players. Things of that nature, and putting everything together and start making that show happen. And then the last category, or excuse me, the next category is in consideration, projects that I would like to launch at some point in the future, but the campaign has not been very well planned out in my mind, or it's just not feasible right now to know when that campaign will launch, so it's kind of on a back burner. And then lastly, the other category for my projects is no, I take that back. In consideration is my final category. So let's talk about additional projects in planning. We have Battletech Total Chaos. What I envision with this is 3 to 5 players as part of a mercenary outfit participating in the events as outlined in the publication Total Chaos that Catalyst put out, covering basically the word of Blake Jihad. Quick note on that. Jihad is, by definition, mostly just a quote-unquote holy war. However, contextual elements added to that, societal elements added to that definition tends to include some other darker tones that makes this word relatively unpopular. So we have decided more or less that we're going to call it the Telecom Wars, but you may hear the word of Blake Jihad come out in that same context for this particular project. Just a point of clarity on that. So what this will look like is 3 to 5 players as part of a mercenary outfit going through the various tracks in the Total Chaos publication, covering the time frame from roughly 3067 to 3080, 3085. They will be doing basically team combat against me in Tabletop Simulator. This is a Battletech project, obviously. I am looking at launching this after the conclusion of either the Frontier Alien campaign or the Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader campaign, and I expect this to be a weekly series. And I'll talk about what I mean, the differences between a weekly series and a whenever we can series when we get to the schedule here in a moment. The other project I'm in planning is an Elite Dangerous role-playing game. This is something that was put out by, I'm going to say Spider-Mine Games, and I hope I got that right because I didn't pull up any references to reference really quick, so I make sure I have the information correct. But Spider-Mine Games released Elite Dangerous role-playing game based on the video game series that has been out since like the mid-'80s. Its current iteration, of course, is produced by Frontier Development, a UK-based company. David Braben, I believe is his name, is the guy in charge of all that. And Elite Dangerous is set in the year 3200, and it is a human society that has gone into space and done all these wonderful things in space, colonized multiple planets and systems and whatnot, faster than light travel, etc. There is a role-playing game for that. I have put some, let's call them building blocks into place for that. This is a game that will be played most likely in Tabletop Simulator, as there is some support there for it already. Um, I had considered using something like Foundry because I think there's Foundry assets available, but I feel like with Foundry there's a lot of background work that I would have to do that is kind of repetitive for what I've already done, and I don't really want to do all that. Not that there isn't time, it's mostly motivation. So using Tabletop Simulator is probably the vehicle for that. Again, I have done some of the world building, etc., but I still need a central antagonistic theme or element, or one major issue that applies to everybody in order for that campaign to be fully fleshed out. But again, I have time to figure that out. In consideration projects, I am thinking of, and none of these have anything close to completed ideas, fully fleshed out ideas, projects that are ready to go anytime soon. I don't even know when they would be able to be launched. But these are some generic ideas that I have. Number one, Traveler, The Outer Veil. Spica Publishing produced number of years ago a Traveler campaign setting based on Traveler First Edition from Mongoose, set in a place called the Outer Veil. It's basically Traveler, but you're limited to more or less tech level 11 or 12, I think. And it's got some interesting bits to it. There's no aliens. It's all human based. Humanity is, of course, spread out, and these are all the stories of that human diaspora, etc. My plan is to go with a roughly 3, possibly 4 season campaign. The first season will basically be the Through the Veil campaign setting. Let's call it the starter kit, for lack of a better thing to call it. 10 episodes or 10 missions that were published within the setting in a linear format, meaning that you would do one right after the other, because it's basically a series of getting from one place to another. At the end of that, we would move into the second season, where it would basically be, I have tentatively considered this to be, and I even wrote this literally in my notes, mercenary shits. Doesn't necessarily have to be mercenary work, but it's whatever the players decide they want to do as the bridge between the Through the Veil and when the major threat to the entire campaign setting is introduced by me. And then season 3, of course, would be dealing with that major threat, and then a possible 4th season in order to close out any remaining strings, loose ends and whatnot. One other option or project I'm considering is a Warhammer Fantasy campaign. I've got some elements in place, but I'm not really sure yet of the overall campaign direction. Additionally, this would most likely take place not in I'm going to call it the old world. I believe that's the term used for Warhammer Fantasy. This would take place in a world very similar, but it would not be the old world. This would be something that I would create that would closely follow the same themes, etc. So, everything, especially like with magic and whatnot, it's a very setting unique system, and I want to incorporate a lot of that with some of my own fantasy elements. So I would have to take some of my ideas, match it up with the old world, twist it, remove a few things from the old world that maybe because I want my own creative juices stewing there. We also have a Sword Chronicles based campaign that I think this is the system I want to use for a campaign idea that I've had for the last 30 something years. Basically, old gods coming back and things of that nature, but I don't want to get too much into it because there's a lot of parts to it that I've been building on for years and years and years, and I got to put it all into one linear, concise, simple, easy use kind of thing. Otherwise, I get sidetracked far too easily. And then lastly is another BattleTech series. It's just basically BattleTech Mercenaries. I have no real meat and bones to this yet. It's just an idea. But basically, it's an open-ended mercenary campaign that, starts at a given point, and based on the players' actions and the players' input, we'll go in a particular direction, and whatever happens from there happens, and then we just figure things out as we go. Let's talk about the schedule moving forward, and for that, I got to pull up a different image here and probably turn my face off so you know what I'm talking about. So, looking at this schedule, this is what I'm projecting uh, the typical week to look like after the 6th of January. Sundays from 4 to 7 Pacific is Imperium Maledictum, which is a show being run on AP Gaming Reel's channel. If you haven't seen any of AP Gaming Reel's stuff, you're missing out. There's some really awesome content in there. YouTube.com/AP Gaming Reel or Twitch.tv/AP Gaming Reel. Some really awesome stuff. Some really good Battletech stuff and a bunch of other stuff that is really good. And I have only seen, let's say, a relatively small portion of all his content that he's got. He's a streamer, YouTuber, game master that has been doing this for years and years, and it's been really awesome stuff. I am in the Imperium Maledictum on Sundays, and I think with my weekends being the way they're looking like they'll be, Sunday, that's pretty much the only show I want to worry about on Sundays. Moving on, Monday, let me back up. Tuesday and Wednesday, of course, are Along the Frontier and Ties of Akron. Those shows are locked. Nothing's going to step on them outside of, the real world, like work or family issues or people are sick or anything of that nature. Nothing else will step on those. Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are my open days. And so what they will be for is for the players that are involved in Operation Revival, Divergence, or Stable Unknown. If they have matches that they want to get done, when it's their week or whatever, that's when those time slots of availability will be. Whichever one takes, first come, first serve, basically what I'm trying to say. One small exception is if you look on Saturday, I have Cut Down in there. Now, we have not committed to Saturday being the hard time, but it looks like Saturday may be the normal time if other things in AP Gaming Reel's realm work out this way. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but Cut Down's going to take some bit of priority over some of my content because I'm in that show. And the long and short of it is, if Cut Down is on, other things will have to wait. But as we all know, with scheduling things week to week, that sometimes things change last minute, or I had a thought, it just totally disappeared, and I can't think of what I was going to say. But at any rate, what we're looking at is Tuesday and Wednesday is the big shows. Sunday, I am committed to something else. And then, of course, using the rest of that time for rest, prep, etc. Saturdays will be Cut Down. In lieu of Cut Down, we'll have Battletech Aquila Legion. In lieu of that, or possibly because somebody scheduled a game or a match for Revival or for Stable Unknown, then that's what will happen. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything else in here in these notes. Oh, so I'm expecting for Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday slots with those two, let's call them flexible schedule shows, Operation Revival Divergence, Stable Unknown. I'm expecting roughly 2 to 3 weeks of real time per in-game week or turn or phase for those various games. This is, for those that are familiar, this is similar to how we ran the Greyland Trios League, where roughly 2 to 3 weeks per in-game week or in-game turn is what we're looking at. What else? I think that's it. Again, I want to point out, of course, I have it written in the notes there, but of course, all times listed are Pacific. Add 3 hours for Eastern. I believe it's 8 hours for GMT, but that fluctuates based on who's doing daylight savings times when. But I think that covers that. So let me go ahead and pull this back up. And then make sure I am not forgetting anything else in my notes. Oh yeah, my goals. Let's talk about that. Of course, my number one goal is quality and engaging, entertaining content. I hope to produce sufficient framework and motivation, impetus, catalyst even, for the players to help me put together a good story. Obviously, I have a lot of input and some control, but you don't in this kind of cooperative storytelling, you can't leave it all to the game master to create the whole story. Like the players got to do some of it. And of course, we have the random element with dice in all of that. So at the end of the day, my goal is to have some really good entertainment and entertaining, engaging content. I've always said that. I've always believed that, and I think we're hitting that mark. The players are involved, especially if you look at the Alien game. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Alien game that is even more than what we intended. It was supposed to be something more like kind of like a horror story, but yet somehow now we've got this underlying moral story of mental health and taking care of oneself, which I love. I absolutely love it. It was never expected. We've got elements that bind the characters to each other in unique and interesting ways. We've got characters that are now not just a stack of numbers trying to survive shitty scenarios. These are players that are intelligently and very well doing very well at it, I should add, playing their characters to the best of their ability and to the best of their characters' ability, and I really, really enjoy that. And I think Rogue Trader is going in that same direction. Of course, Rogue Trader is many episodes behind insofar as opportunities for character progression, but I think we're gonna start seeing that because I already see a couple of players that are showing deep interest in what their character can and can't do, and what they can, not necessarily what they can get away with, but what are their limitations and how does that affect them in their day to day, so to speak. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. I'm very interested in seeing how that goes, and I think that is a crucial part of some of that quality, engaging entertainment. Growth in the channel is a close second, and also directly related to the first goal. We can always sit here and try to bump our numbers for the sake of bumping our numbers and going from 20 or 30 to 100, or from 100 to 500, or 500 to 1,000, whatever. But that doesn't mean shit to me if they are not a quality. With quality entertainment, you get a quality fan base, and you get a loyal fan base. And this is kind of my thought philosophy. I'm not sure if that's really the right word, and I'm sure there's people that may or may not agree with that, and that's fine. And what works for one doesn't always work for another, and vice versa. So, long and short of it is as long as we're producing quality content, the numbers will grow, or conversely diminish if we're not. But it's all tied together, is I think where I'm really going with that. I've been watching the numbers over the last 2 years since the last time I did a State of the Dominion address. We've basically doubled our numbers from that time, and they've been fairly consistent ever since, I think. My ultimate goal, of course, is to be self-sufficient through these gaming streams and videos and whatnot, that I don't have to go to work and break my back every day. Sometimes in a very literal sense, because I did hurt my back a little bit yesterday, but I digress. I want to be able to have sufficient enough funds to take care of my needs and take care of my family based on being able to sit here and tell a story every week, several times a week. That's my end state. That's my ultimate goal. Whether or not we get there, I'm not saying I'm hard charging for that, because unfortunately this is my evening job. This is not my day job. And unfortunately my day job gets the bulk of my energy. But that's just the nature. It is what it is. And there's times when I don't feel like streaming. And there's times when I show up to stream and I'm a little low energy, but then I get back into the swing of things. And I know by the end of the show, I'm like, oh, wow, our time's done already, Speaking of our time is done, that is the extent of the things I wanted to cover. I wanted to leave it open for some Q&A, but I don't think we're going to have too many questions right now. And that's okay. But I'll leave it here for a moment or two. Kind of just bump my gums. What was something that you thought was cool in the things I have done previously, or the things that I'm planning on doing in the future? There's a lot of Battletech content, a lot more than I thought there would be if you'd asked me something like that a year ago. But I don't know, Battletech is fun. The fact that I can do it in Tabletop Simulator and get really crazy with the rules makes for a lot of opportunities. So Mega Mech is always cool, but as I've said before, Mega Mech kind of puts you in a box that looks a lot like BattleTech. Covers so many things from BattleTech, but Tabletop Simulator allows you to do all of that and more. So when you want to have crazy rules like adding ridiculous bonuses to initiative if certain conditions are made, Mega Mech doesn't necessarily support that, but Tabletop Simulator would. At any rate, I'm kind of rambling here, and I'm gonna wrap it now. This went a lot longer than I thought it would. Holy cow, 30 minutes of me jaw jacking on this recording. So I will say this: stay safe out there, my friends. This world is a crazy dark place. Make sure you're doing what you gotta do to take care of you and yours. And as for me and mine, we are out of here. And lastly, happy holidays, whatever that means for you. Make it a good one. I hope the Christmas day was an amazing day for you. If it was just another 25th of December for you, amazing, amazing day regardless. We'll see you out there. Don't forget, New Year's Eve stream, still in the works. Not sure exactly what I'm going to do. It's probably going to be Aquila Legion, to be honest. I think that's about the only thing my computer can handle at this point, but that's a topic for another time. In the meantime, stay safe, enjoy yourselves, look out for each other, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good one, my friends.